What's up everyone? Alex here. The demo for Star Ocean: The Second Story R released last month on Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC, and if you haven't played it yet, I urge you to check it out. However, if you simply don't have time to peel yourself away from your infinite backlogs, have no fear, as I'll be sharing my impressions of the demo in this video. The footage that you're seeing right now is captured from the Switch version of the demo. A few things. 1. I played Star Ocean Second Story when it came out in 1998, which is about a quarter of a century ago, 25 years. And because I played so many JRPGs over the past few years since I started this channel, admittedly, my memory of that playthrough is pretty hazy. So for the most part, I'll be approaching my impressions video from the perspective of someone who's never played the original game, though I will chime in on things that I do remember from time to time. Secondly, the save in this demo carries over to the full game, so if you want a taste of how the game feels, play the demo after watching this video. If you've never played any Star Ocean games before, you should know that Star Ocean Second Story is highly regarded by fans as the best Star Ocean game ever made. What this means to you is that should you decide to try out the demo or pick up the full game, that you will be getting the best the series has to offer and so much more. And by the way, even though it says Second Story, you can totally start with this one as your first Star Ocean. A little bit of background. Star Ocean is a series developed by Tri-Ace, a company named after 3 of the Ace members of the Wolf Team, responsible for the Tales series. Yes, that Tales series left to form their own development studio. With that context alone, if you have any sort of relationship with the Tales series, especially with its earlier titles, then Star Ocean: The Second Story R should feel familiar to you. Simply put, Star Ocean is an RPG series that features real-time action, though to call it an action RPG might set an unfair expectation, as it has some of the quirks from the Tales series. One of these quirks has to do with having an enemy targeted at all times. Every time you execute a melee attack, for instance, your character will automatically run towards their selected target and smash them with their weapon. And any Tales fan who hears this will quickly recognize that this is similar to the semi-auto functionality that most Tales games have. And as mentioned, battles all happen in real time, with your party members engaging enemies using the strategies you've set. For the most part, I found that the party AI to be serviceable a lot of the time, though I did find that I had to babysit them a few times because I hadn't utilized the strategy tools well enough. There's certainly a pace of combat in Star Ocean: The Second Story R that is different from other action games as well, no doubt to accommodate all matter of RPG fans regardless of their experience with real-time combat. I actually died quite a bit just trying to master the game's dodge functionality. Thankfully, it didn't take me long to actually get acclimated with the combat, especially when I started gathering party members. One new feature in this remake is the ability to break enemies, which lets you stun enemies after whittling away at their break meter, which is now a common feature in modern JRPGs. This helps manage the chaotic nature of real-time battles, allowing you to focus fire on one enemy, an available strategy, to momentarily stun them so you can focus on dealing with the rest of the enemy pack. There's also new assault actions that lets you bring in allies from various Star Ocean games to deliver massive amounts of damage very quickly. But the one thing that I love about Second Story R's battles is how easily understandable it is, regardless of the special effects and particles firing off. When I reviewed Tales of Arise a few years ago, I spoke to a few people who said that they had a tough time understanding the game's visual language due to the excessive amounts of things happening on screen. At least with its demo, Second Story R's combat was easily digestible, despite its effects being more pronounced and extravagant. The progression system is quite straightforward. You get your typical experience point leveling system, but you also get points to spend on improving your stats or your skills. Multiple ways to craft are also available in the demo, which unlock closer to the end of it. I really appreciated being able to play around with these systems in the demo, as it gives me a clear indication of what to expect and gives me ideas on how to kit up my party once the full game comes out. Which brings me to another thing that I love about this demo: its gorgeous 2.5D art style. Some have called this HD 2D, but I find that there's a difference between HD 2D and this 2.5D art style. For one, HD 2D games like Live Alive, the Octopath Traveler series, and Triangle Strategy still adhere to a strict tile-based design that is reminiscent of 16-bit Super Nintendo JRPGs of old. This means that while it allows for movement to and away from the player, the camera pans and functions unilaterally across the board during exploration. Additionally, the texturing work done throughout, for both the characters and the environments, are all based off of a pixel art aesthetic, which opts for less realism in favor of a stylistic, classic look. The 2.5D style of Star Ocean, on the other hand, while having characters rendered in pixel art, features environments that utilize textures that are not rooted in pixel art. The goal of the environmental art design is to capture as much of the pre-rendered CG environments that the original PlayStation release had using the available technology of today, along with more dramatic camera pans that enhance the scale of your surroundings. The last thing that I want to point out about the demo is the rearranged songs from Motoi Sakuraba. Sakuraba has collaborated with both Tri-Ace and the Tales team over at Bandai Namco for many years now, and many consider his work in Star Ocean Second Story as his peak. The newly arranged soundtrack modernizes many of the familiar tunes from the original game, which complements the stylistic change in its presentation extremely well. I, for one, absolutely love the tracks I heard from the demo. And while I'll have to listen to more of it once the game comes out, I can already see this game's soundtrack belonging to one of my favorite game albums of the year. Overall, the taste that the Star Ocean The Second Story art demo gave me was more than enough to convince me that this is going to be one of the must-play games of the year. More than just a remake, the developers over at Gemdrops really took the time to look at the original game to figure out how to create a remake that not only honors its best parts, but also lifts the rest of it with modern features that enhance the experience. And it won't be long until we get to experience the whole thing, as Star Ocean The Second Story R is coming out on November 2nd on Switch, PS4, PS5, and PC. That being said, I want to hear from you. Have you played the demo yet? What did you think? Post your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.